Doing business internationally comes with many barriers. These cultural barriers can negatively influence your business. Communication, business etiquette, and outside factors are what I'm going to be talking about today as barriers. First is communication. Communication is a solid foundation to start an international business relationship. It's very important because if you're unable to communicate with your overseas partners, then you're unable to even be given the opportunity to fail at business in the first place. Communication is very, very important. Anything from the volume of your voice, which in the United States, volume can be higher, you can speak more aggressively, whereas in places like China, they speak a little bit more passively when they're communicating. Things like language, needing a translator. I thought this was very interesting when doing my research because when I interviewed my business person that had done business overseas, that's something that they discussed, is getting a translator, and getting a translator that knows your business and would be good and quick in negotiations. But there's also nonverbal cues. Nonverbal is very, very important, and especially to countries like China. Being able to communicate with them with your body language, with the way you say things is just very important. So the next is business etiquette. And I think this can be the hardest because you can learn your best on how to communicate with people, but sometimes the business etiquette is so ingrained in you that it could be difficult. Process versus goals. Some countries focus a lot more on the process itself, while others are so strongly focused and confident about their goals. An example of this would be the United States being more goal focused, where France is more process focused. Another example would be formal versus informal meetings. Another good example with the United States and France. In the United States, you call people by their first name, you shake their hands, maybe give them a pat on the back, but in France it's a lot more formal, and they want their business meetings to stay a lot more formal. The next can be contracts. Does the country you're working with even usually have a contract, or are they someone that, or are they a group of people or a culture that would prefer relationships and honor of relationships over having an inward contract? And if you do have a contract, do they like the general wording in the contract, or do they like more specific, such as the United States and China? China would want more general or not have a contract at all. If they have that kind of relationship, they'd rather build that relationship with you. Whereas in the United States, we're very contract focused, and we're very specific when we write our contracts. So the last thing that I want to talk about is outside influences, outside barriers that can influence doing business internationally. I think these are really important, especially in today's time. We have a lot more traveling. It's more accessible, it's cheaper, and then we also have more outside influences that could affect our ability to travel abroad. So first is the travel itself. It's time consuming, it's costly, and then you're not always able to get like all your equipment over sometimes, or it's too costly to get your equipment over, which can be difficult if you have to do a certain presentation, or if you have equipment that you feel like you need or would be better at closing a deal. That can be difficult. And then governments is important. Some countries have a very nationalist and pride with their country, and they like to do deals that are backed by governments, and that's very important to them, where other countries it's not. There's also some issues with governments, government relations with each other, as well as if sometimes it's just safety. Traveling to different countries that might be war-torn, or it might not be as safe to travel there, can definitely be an issue. So some solutions for these problems, I think the biggest one is education. You need to learn or identify what the problems are and then learn about them. Learn about the issues, learn about the cultures, the communications, everything that you can, and then find solutions. I think in today's world, it's easiest to find solutions because we have so much technology available to us. You can Skype, you can conference call, you can webinar. There's so many different forms of communication that we have with these increases in technology that make business available, but it also makes it safe and accessible, and it will help overcome some of these barriers and issues that I discussed. Thank you.